campus is located on the traditional lands of the Lekwungen peoples, the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations. And it is with gratitude where we live, learn, and work here, where the past, present, and future of Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, staff, and faculty come together. So grateful to be here with all of you today. And of course, folks, the reason that we're here today is to explore and hear from our wonderful students in the BBA program. Our title today is called Ditch the Lectures, Build Your Future, and you'll see how we do that in this amazing program here in just a minute. I'm pleased to be joined by some wonderful folks here. Lee Sentes, who's the program head for the BBA. Hello, Lee, nice to see you. And also pleased to be joined by my wonderful colleagues. We have some colleagues from Enrollment Services, Kelsey and Alana here with us. We also have our amazing students, Katya, Aoi, and Isaiah, who are here with us as well. And we also have our program associate, Emily, from the BBA program. And my name's Ariana Konjerski, of course. I'm an education specialist here at Royal Roads University. So happy to always co-host these with these wonderful folks. And just a quick agenda before we get going here. So I will give us a brief overview of the Royal Roads experience. We'll talk about the BBA program. We'll also meet our students. And then I'll give us some admissions information and how you can apply if you're interested. And as I said, you can do questions in the chat if you have anything as we go along here. And you may be asking yourself, if you're not already familiar with Royal Roads, why consider Royal Roads as a university? There are so many out there. I just want to share quickly some alumni survey statistics that have recently been published here. So 93% of our alumni say that Royal Roads has positively influenced their personal and professional lives. 92% say that they felt supported by staff and faculty at Royal Roads. 90% say that we provided them with the tools and knowledge required for a leadership role in the workplace, and 89% say that we provided them with the tools and knowledge needed to be innovative in the workplace. I'll also share some photos of our space. If you're not familiar already, you'll see the building on the top left. This is Hatley Castle. This may look familiar to you. This has been a very famous movie set in the past, so films like X-Men and Deadpool have been filmed here. We also have many, many hectares of gardens and green space here on campus. So you'll see just to the right of that, that's a photo of our Japanese garden that we have here. And we also have our Esquimalt Lagoon. So just to the bottom left, that's a photo of our migratory bird sanctuary we have here. And we've also been doing online learning. We say well over 25 years, but it's actually almost 30 years now. So we've been doing online and blended learning styles for all those years. So that's just an homage in the bottom right corner as well. And we're pleased to also be an Ashoka U certified changemaker campus. And this is an innovative approach to education that prepares students as they address world problems, encourage others, and act for the good of all. And before we get into the content for today, I just also quickly want to introduce that we have some new undergraduate programs coming for year 1 and 2. So in year 1, we have some certificates in business and sustainability, applied environmental science or social science. Year 2, we have some diploma options, and then years 3 and 4, we have a variety of undergraduate completion options as well. So just want to put that out there. Our first intake will be coming up for that in September. Okay, so at this point, we will get to the exciting part here. I'll pass it off to my wonderful co-host, Lee, who will take us through just a bit of program information on the BBA. Lee.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ariana, and welcome. It's lovely to see so many people here, colleagues from the university, but also past students. I'm really actually very excited to get to the point where I stop talking and we get to actually hear from our students. One of the joys of having this role, or really any kind of staff or instructor role at Royal Roads, is seeing what our students do with their degrees once they get them. And you know, we've provocatively titled this this webinar "Ditch the Lectures, Build Your Future," and we're very much going to be looking at what kind of future our three guests have started to build for themselves. They're at a junction in their lives where they're just about to graduate and enter into professional work. Some already have probably picked up some work already. We'll hear that in a little bit. But before we get to that section, let's focus on this whole concept at the beginning with this ditch the lectures, right? This very provocatively selected title. So one of the things that we should all be very grateful for. We live in a time where we've got a ridiculous amount of choice of where education can happen. Um, Especially when we look at a degree like a BA, an undergrad business degree, there's lots of selection. Just here in Canada, here in BC, there's lots of different universities where you could go and get quality education that sets you up for work going forward. And I think that's something, especially when we look around the world at countries where education systems are facing real stresses, where societies are facing real stresses. Let's not lose sight of the fact that we're very lucky that we have this choice. Now, one of the questions then is, well, how do you make a choice between all of these different possibilities that are out there? And what makes Royal Roads different? And why have we called this Ditch the Lectures? And I think the main thing is that we wanted to build a style of BBA that went beyond what was regularly offered at universities within regular BBA programs. So up until 2021, Royal Roads had a very similar style of BBA offering that you would see in really any university. A marketing course that you would take, and then you would take a course maybe on policy development, or a course on finance, and they were all segregated. And you would spend time learning a concept, listening to those lectures, and there was a lot of emphasis then on, let's put you in an exam situation and see how much you have memorized. And that's great if what the university's purpose is to develop your memory skills. If it's there in order to help you with your ability to ingest information and regurgitate it accurately. Um, However, when you go outside of the walls of the university and you ask employers, hey, what are you looking for? Are you looking for people who can regurgitate what was on page 3 of the Bryson textbook? They say, no, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people who we can train. We're looking for people who can problem solve. We're looking for people that have soft skills, we call them, things like communication skills, ability to work in a team, ability to handle complex situations where there isn't necessarily a right solution, but a variety of research and a variety of insights need to be pulled together in order to try to come up with a way forward, maybe for a business decision, or maybe for a new product or a new service that's being developed. And very rarely do you end up in a situation where any of those problems is 100% finance or 100% marketing or policy or governance or anything. Oftentimes, they're a mixture of all of these different skill sets all at the same time. And being able to have, I guess, the skills at your fingertips of how to mix and match and pull on those different skills at the same time is something that's really important to employers. So this new version of the BBA, using a approach we call project-based learning, is very much there in order to address that issue. How do we get away from the standard, often offered BBA process of these, skills that are done in silos, one course at a time? How do we make it so that we're actually creating a learning environment that helps set students up for their future? Set students up for the ability to walk in to even their first job interview after graduating and saying, yes, I've got this degree, but these are organizations, companies, municipalities, nonprofits that I actually worked for and worked with over the 16 months that my BBA took place, or that I studied my BBA. And so the way I like to think about it is that we're actually setting up a learning environment which is very similar to, say, a junior consultant role. So yes, you've got situations where, or you've got a situation where you've got an informed instructor, a lead, someone who can lead you through whatever the challenges that's been put in front of you from the clients. But you as a individual student are working very much in teams in order to address things that the client has asked you to do. Now, a lot of different BBAs at some point in their whole, process, they'll have maybe one unit or one course maybe, or a few weeks where you are working with a live client, or where you are addressing maybe a case study, or you are, trying to do something which is a little bit more real life, let's put it that way. At the BBA in Royal Roads, it's not something which is reduced to only one unit or only one, a month out of the entire 16 months. You're working with live clients continuously, real clients, real organizations that we've gone out to and said, hey, municipality of Victoria, what are some challenges that you're facing? What are some things that we could get our students to help you research, or to come up with new ideas in ways that maybe you haven't thought of before? And we approach everything from, public sector, both municipal level, but also provincial level. I'm sure we'd be open to federal too. But nonprofits, businesses, local businesses, a lot of our emphasis is on helping to build up local community economic development. And we want real challenges and real problems from those organizations. And so we've got 4 terms across those 16 months. Within any term, you're going to be working on 3, maybe 4 projects. Each one of those projects, multi-week, you're only focused on that project. You're only looking at whatever that challenge is for those 4 weeks, 5 weeks. And the client is counting on you as a student to actually produce something that is going to be useful for them. This is really, really different from just going from class to class, passively sitting, listening. Your active element is the regurgitation during an exam or during a test. And you graduate without actually having really applied any of the information that you've been gathering. At Royal Roads, our BBA is completely, the process is flipped insofar as we want you to graduate having actually applied the knowledge and information that you're learning along the way in a supported environment. So it means that you're coming out of this BBA with more than just a degree. The degree is great, and you can get a degree anywhere. You can do online courses through university of whatever, and pick a country, and be able to get a BBA degree. You're only going to get the type of experience that a junior level consultant would have after their first maybe year or two of employment at an organization. You're only going to get that by coming to the Royal Roads, coming to Royal Roads and engaging with our BBA here, because it's been especially designed exactly for that process. So to give you just a brief idea of like, okay, well, what does this look like in practice? Let's just look at like a specific week, for example. We have students come in for 10 o'clock in the morning. So classes run from 10 o'clock until 3 o'clock, 4 days a week. So usually Monday through to Thursday. During that time, you're going to be working in teams. You're not sitting through classes, you're not sitting through lectures. The instructor is there to help interpret what it is that the client has asked for, break it into steps, which take the form of assignments, and then you within the team have an awful lot of both time and agency to be creative about how you are going to approach any of those assignments within the projects, with an eye to, at the end of that project period, you're delivering something to the client which is in line with what they've asked for and that they need. So each one of those projects is really different and really dynamic. There isn't a recipe. There's no right answer. We don't know what the right answers are for so many of our projects. I was talking to an instructor who's going to be starting for us in a couple of weeks with a new project, and we were saying, well, we can design the first two out of three assignments, but it really depends on what the students find with assignment one and assignment two, and we're not going to know what the specifics are for assignment three until we find out information from the students. We find out what they have discovered. So there's a emergence that happens with the learning. We don't know necessarily how we're going to get to our end goal. We just know what our end goal is. And we've got skilled instructors and skilled staff and everyone else who know how to help navigate you through this process. Now, if you take yourself, let's forget that we're talking about a university. If you go to your first professional, business where you're going to be working, or municipality or wherever else, you're in the office, you're working in a team environment, you're working with other staff. And your boss or your manager or your coordinator, whatever you want to call them, is going to come up to you and say, "Hey, there's this project that we need to develop this thing. We need to do this stuff that's been asked for us, or we've noticed a gap in the market and we want to develop this product." There isn't a clear rule book of all the steps that you need to take in order to make that happen. And they're going to look you in the eye, and what they want to see is that you've got some idea of what you're doing, right? They want to know that you've been through something similar before. And that's what is going to set you apart from other people from other universities who have a similar-ish degree. Your ability to say, well, you know what, we've actually done community engagement projects before. You know what, we've gone and we've actually mapped out land use, or I've mapped out land use within a municipality and decided what ratio of mixed use buildings to residential buildings we should have within a space. I've already done a project where I was figuring out how a small company could make itself franchise ready. I've done that stuff. And that ability to say that you've seen it, you've tasted it before, you've got some idea of where to take it, that elevates you to such a degree, not just once you've actually landed the job and you have the job, but put yourself in the shoes of, like, who would you rather be when you are going in for an interview? A student who has taken a marketing course. Yeah, I took a marketing course and I've taken a finance course. I know what a spreadsheet is. Or the other student that is able to go in and say, well, not only do I have that experience of working with those tools and those concepts, but I've actually applied it in a real world setting with a real world problem. And I helped a real organization um, to maybe see a problem in a different way. Maybe I didn't solve the issue for them completely, but I've helped them maybe decide where they need to focus their future efforts and their future directions. So The BBA at Royal Roads is a very different organism. It's a very different experience than what you are going to get at other universities. It's 100% focused on you working within teams, dynamic teams that shift and change over time. It's very much focused on addressing real world projects and challenges within real client organizations. And through that work, you're picking up the same skills, the same knowledge, the same background that you would get within a regular BBA program, but it's got this really very valuable added element of application, which an exam is not an application of knowledge. And there's really nothing that can replace you tackling something which is real, which has consequence, which the client values, and just the ability to kind of, I don't know, hold yourself in a different way. It is actually really interesting. I don't know if any of my other colleagues have ever noticed this, but you see students on the first day and they're, let's face it, they're a little bit scared, they're a little terrified, they're worried about, did I make the right decision? What have I just signed up for? And then you see them like at this stage with our three students that we have here, where they're just on the cusp of graduation. You three might not notice this, but I see it and I think others do too. You walk across the room in a very different way now, right? Your level of confidence is different. And the way that I see our students within the BBA kind of fill space, exude that confidence, is different than what I see even at other programs at Royal Roads that are more traditionally based. And I really think this comes down to our emphasis on all of those soft skills, those skills that I can't teach you how to present. I can't teach you how to work in a team. I can only give you the opportunity to experience that yourself with all the pros and cons that come with that, and have you learn how to navigate those challenges. I mean, the where you're going to end up after 16 months is just going to be much further ahead than what other students experience. So, to give you an idea of some of the projects that we're working on, even with the current cohort, so it wouldn't necessarily be these aren't projects that Aoi, Katya, and Isaiah worked on, but I've just picked some from ones that are happening right now. We've got everything from organizations or companies have a product that they want to bring to market, and they're not sure about how to bring that to market. So there's an organization called Cascadia Seaweed, and we're going to be helping them with that, and also figuring out, what are the challenges within that? Where are the risks? How might we be able to mitigate some of those risks along the way? We're also, students right this moment are working with Langford Council. So Langford Municipality is right next door to Colwood Municipality, where Royal Roads is situated, very close also to Victoria, the capital of the province. And Langford Council, fast growing council, is one of the fastest growing municipalities in all of Canada. And they're trying to figure out how do we get the ratio of mixed use property correct within our growth prospectus. Like, what do we do? Where are the opportunities there? Where are some of the challenges? We've worked with a organization, a private sector organization that's setting up a web browser. And they want that web browser to do more than just browse the web. They want it to actually impact levels of CO2, and also to just be able to be something new in that very crowded space. And then finally, we do work with a lot of our local Indigenous and First Nations that are within this area. One of them was a recent one with Songhees First Nation was a labor market study, which was trying to figure out how do we match what is it that the local labor market is looking for within Songhees Nation, and how do we help students who are maybe graduating high school or college or university? How do we help align the skills that are needed within that community so that more of those individuals can actually find good work within their nation, within the community? So that just gives you a taster of what type of projects that the students are working on, the type of things that if you sign up and come, you'll be engaged with. It won't be exactly those projects; there'll be different projects, but that level of creativity and application and ability to immediately put the skills that you are learning to a practical use. I really can't understate that, or I can't overstate it. It's so important to you in terms of your education and what you are going to leave BBA or the Royal Roads BBA with. So I only wish that this kind of opportunity existed when I was doing my undergrad, because I would have jumped on it. But I did a very traditional undergrad situation. So that's really a very quick overview of what the BBA is all about at Royal Roads. Obviously, if you have questions, and I have no doubt that people will have questions, you can always contact Royal Roads, contact our program staff. I'd be happy to have a conversation with anybody who's interested in signing up. But I think that's probably enough from me. Let's move over to our three guests and see what their thoughts and ideas are on the Royal Roads BBA and where they're at now at this very important and critical junction in their life. It's very exciting. So Aoi, Katya, Isaiah, thank you very much for showing up. It's wonderful to have you here. Very excited to hear what what your experience of the BBA was, and also how you see that influencing what your future opportunities are. So I'm going to start with the first question. So just so people know, yes, we've let Katya and Isaiah know what the questions are beforehand, but we're going to be just following this like an interview and seeing where the conversation goes. So the first question that I am going to put forward, and I'm going to just randomly pick Katya first, because you're top on my list here of people. So just so you know, you're going to be first up with looking for an answer for this or some insights. So the first question is, we put a lot of emphasis on how different RRU's BBA experience is from other programs and other universities. This includes a focus on student project work over lectures, as it says in the title of the webinar, an elimination of exams, and a valuing of creativity over regurgitation of correct answers. So I'm curious, Katya, what was that like from your own experience, and what made our approach hopefully valuable to your learning?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here today. It's really an honor. I think I'll start off with by just saying it made me re-fall in love with school again. Before coming to Royal Roads, I was part of the traditional um, student lifestyle and learning style, and it never really was for me. And I didn't know that there was actually more out there until I came to Royal Roads and I got to experience this. And it is true. It really, you won't see any lectures or tests that are being put out to test your knowledge. You are very heavily surrounded by your cohort and working in groups constantly and with those real life clients. For me, this was probably the most exciting part. It felt like the work that I was doing and what I was preparing, it was being created for a purpose, and it was going to be actually put into real life and be used. And this made my experience just overall way more exciting and fulfilling than it could have been in a traditional school setting for sure. So I'm very thankful for that. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you very much, Katya. Aoi, Isaiah, would either of you like to jump in? Aoi, maybe if we come to you next, I can see your microphone is on, so you're obviously raring to go. So
Eager to speak. No, well, I really agree with Katya. It made studying a lot more fun and exciting. I think a big part was that we were working in teams. When I was in my previous school, it was mostly studying for an exam. So I would study up to then, remember everything, and then forget everything after my exam.
yeah,
But when we were working in teams and figuring out things, because there's no like right answer, we'd have to come up with some creative out of the box ideas. And like we learn from our teammates, they all have different backgrounds and different ideas. So it's very interesting how you can like learn new things from other people's ideas and then bring it to the class, and the class learns from each teams. So it's not just like learning from the project itself, but it was also learning from your classmates and teammates, and it gave me a lot of value from that.
nice. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Aoi. What about you, Isaiah?
Yeah, I agree with what they said. So I found especially like working in teams, it gives you a lot of opportunity to share your knowledge with each other, which yeah, you definitely don't get as much of in a traditional program. I also found working with clients, it's like I've been doing some interviews this week, and it's really helpful during interviews to be able to bring up these examples of things you've done. Like for one question, for instance, like bring up a time where you had a conflict with a coworker, and we can bring up, say, like when we did our assessment matrix
Mhm.
in the first project with Souk. I also found it interesting hearing you saying the new students are doing a project with Cascadia seaweed because in
Mhm.
our Souk project we kind of contacted them for a part of it. So fun to hear the continuance of that for you guys.
Yeah,
But yeah, I found it
absolutely.
much more valuable actually doing work with real clients throughout the program. Keeps you inspired to.
Yeah. It's interesting, and all three of you have really emphasized that that importance of working with live clients. Isaiah, you also interestingly kind of dropped that nugget of being in an interview situation and being able to leverage your experience within the BBA. I wonder, do you want to say a little bit more of that? Like how to what degree was that useful to you? How were you able to use it within that situation?
Yeah, well, I've only done a couple, I guess, since, so it's not super deep into it, but like often interviews, they include like behavioral based questions where they want to hear like experience that you've had in the past and how you have previously handled situations.
Mhm.
And having all of these different experiences with teamwork, leadership, conflict within teams gives you all kinds of examples that I don't think I really could match with my current work in order to answer interview questions using as well as using or the learning we had when we did our internship course using the STAR method to
Yeah,
answer these questions.
nice. Yeah. What about Katya and Aoi? Are you in the process of looking for jobs at the moment? And how has how have you been able to leverage your experience there?
Yeah, I'm currently finishing up the program abroad through our exchange completion option.
Hmm.
But I have no doubt that when finishing and looking for work, that I'll definitely be able to leverage the things I've learned at Royal Roads. But I'll let Aoi speak to it more because I think she has more to share in this area.
Hmm. Aoi, go for it.
Um, well, I actually got hired at the place I did my internship in, so I'm
Yay.
working full time as a marketing coordinator now. When I did my interview for that company, it was very useful that we had a lot of tools that we used in our program, software tools and thinking tools.
Hmm.
They asked me like, are you familiar with Microsoft something, or have you used any whiteboards? Have you used this? And a lot of the things, because we did it in real life, I had experience in using. Also, there were like tools in terms of how we think, like the customer journey maps, design thinking. There was a lot of like personas. It was a lot of things that we actually did in the program as assignments or as a team that they use in the company as well. So because I had the experience, I think I had more privilege in the interview. And also in terms of public speaking and confidence in speaking professionally was helpful in the interview because we have a lot of presentations in our program and we get used to talking in front of clients or professionals. So we know how to talk confidently in a professional way, which really helped in my interviews.
Nice. Yeah. And that might be something where we explore a little bit next, is that idea of soft skill development. I know it's not one of our set questions, but this is me deviating, right? But we really emphasize, all of you have mentioned teamwork. And let's be honest, teamwork has its ups and downs, right? There's challenges, there's also high points. And I wonder if, maybe not talking specifically about where it went up or where it went down, but maybe emphasizing how you see that experience being able to set you up for future employment. Because there really aren't that many jobs where you are working 100% independently. I wonder, maybe Aoi, if we start with you, because it sounds like you're the one who has been able to actually land the big fish first.
Well, yeah, where I'm currently working, I'm also working in a team. We have a small marketing team of 6, so it's very similar. I think the biggest part that was an advantage for me was I knew how to communicate with a team. A lot of difficulties we had in a team is that everyone has a different understanding because of their backgrounds or where they're from. And it was very important to keep everyone up to date. So if I've done something, I have to tell them, the whole team. And then if someone else does something, they'll tell us so that we don't do the same thing over and over, or we don't have something slacking in the team. That was the biggest problem that most teams had. And because I was used to working in teams now, I know how to communicate when I should and what to tell them in an efficient way. So I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, you get to whip out a team charter every once in a while, right? So who knows? Maybe it might be a tool that your workplace can use. Katja, I know you haven't yet found a new position, but I wonder, you're doing an exchange at the moment. How have you found your experience of working in teams at Royal Roads has set you up for that experience? Because I'm assuming there's probably some teamwork that happens where your exchange is taking place too.
Yes, where my exchange is happening, it's actually all teamwork based. So similar to Royal Roads. How it set me up, I would say, is in Royal Roads because there's different cultures coming in to work with you. It set me up in the way of being already familiar with that I'm working around people that are in a different culture, that also have very different communication styles. Some are direct, some are indirect. And I think just already being at Royal Roads and working with different cultures and different perspectives, it really helped me to just know how to work with all sorts of different kinds of people and understand that there's different communication styles and how to approach different scenarios just as a whole when working in a team.
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, I remember when I graduated from my undergrad, and yes, there was a little bit of teamwork that was part of that, but I think once I got my first kind of professional job, I realized how much I actually didn't have the skills of working together. And in a lot of workplaces, it's very hit and miss to the degree to which those or that activity of working in a team is actually supported, right? So it's one thing to emphasize, is that because we at Royal Roads, because we emphasize teamwork so much, we do have dedicated team coaches. So people whose their skill set is to come in as a job and to help within team environments. So yeah, thank you very much. Isaiah, is there anything that you'd like to add too about that, about teams?
Yeah, I was just going to mention how you can kind of see the development throughout the program of those soft skills. You're talking about communication,
Mhm.
organization skills. I remember back in the first semester of the program where everybody'd kind of be doing their own thing and we'd be trying to coordinate, but we hadn't figured out like which tools to use and like how to
Mhm.
work as a team. Yeah, and it'd be a bit more messy. And by the end, we would shuffle the teams every semester, and it didn't matter who you would be paired with. Like everybody would have the same kind of system to work in a team more effectively. So how it kind of, in a way, standardized, but like trained everybody to work together in an effective way.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and that's great to hear because that is definitely something that we're trying to aim for is that, by the end, we know it's going to be rough roads at the beginning because it's these are challenging new skills to pick up. But by the end, it's lovely to see this machine that just is kind of like working. And it's also lovely to see kind of students' eyes not go wide when they hear what the project or the challenges that's put in front of them. Once they get to the end, they're like, oh yeah, we're fine, throw me anything, we'll be able to handle it, it'll be okay. Whereas that first project, that was probably a little bit scary. I don't know, does anyone remember what your first project was and what that was like, what that experience was like?
It was addressing food security in Souk.
Right,
Um,
yeah,
and we all had different angles to take towards it. So my team was the aquaculture.
that's
That's when
right,
we did Cascadia seaweed. We were also looking at aquaponics before we did our other aquaponics projects.
yeah,
Um, yeah, like looking at all of the different aspects and trying to figure out even which direction to go within that project. It was a lot.
yeah,
The second project was also a continuation of that project, and it got even more kind of messy, spiraling. So
yeah,
yeah, by the end, especially after doing like design thinking and stuff, where things are kind of moving sideways and you're okay with it, there's definitely some
yeah.
development there.
Yeah, no, really good point. Yeah, definitely. And a complex set of projects to hit you with right at the beginning. Um, and it's interesting, like you probably could see that yes, your instructor had set a framework for you, but where you guys were going to land, what ideas you were going to come up with for the municipality of Souk, who knows? It really depends on what it is that you go out and discover and the kind of hard work that you put into it. So maybe we've basically covered the questions that we've listed here. So I'm gonna hit you with one other kind of new question, which again, it's kind of a low ball question, but I think you'll all be able to engage with it. And it's the basic question. If you were to give someone some advice, if they were thinking, they were on the fence about coming to Royal Roads and doing the BBA at Royal Roads, what would you say to be convincing to maybe have them, ask a question of themselves to decide whether they want to come to Royal Roads and experience this? What do you think, Aoi? What would you say to them, or what piece of advice would you give them?
I would say don't be scared of jumping in. I was scared at first because my background was in architecture. I wasn't technically taking business. So I was scared that I didn't have enough skills to be in a business class. But during the program, of course, at first there was a lot of words that I was unfamiliar with, and it was my second language. So that was another thing I was scared of. But once I jumped in, because we work in teams and the instructors are amazing and supportive, I never had a time that I had difficulty understanding the class or that I felt like I was left behind. Everyone brings you up to the speed, and so it's not a scary program, although there's a lot of presentation that's not normal. So I think it feels a little scary, but I would
Hmm,
say just jump into it.
jump in. Very nice. Katya, what about you?
Yeah, I would say just do it, honestly. If you want to make like an impact through all of your work, do it because like everything we've prepared, I can honestly say like the end result was just such a nice feeling of accomplishment and being able to deliver them to clients and them saying like, oh yes, we're totally going to put this into practice is just something you will not get anywhere else. Like Aoi said, it may seem a little bit scary, but it's a process you get a lot of supports with, either just within the team you're working in or your cohort as a whole or the instructors, like they're all there to help you and to support you. And they really do practice that, I would say. So yeah, just do it is probably my advice. You won't regret it. You'll probably end up loving it just like I did.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you very much, Katja. Isaiah, last word to you. What do you think? What advice would you give?
Yeah, well, same as kind of what the others said. Um, I think like this compared to any other school's program, I mean, like you've been saying before, you learn so much more from just being um, working with real clients, but also it gives you like some extra, I guess, satisfaction at the end,
Hmm.
and more motivation to go through with everything because what you're doing might really be implemented. For that, our aquaponics project got that company a grant to build the aquaponics plant. So,
Awesome.
um, yeah, those things might happen with what you do, so it's more exciting. I also think just show people pictures of the gardens, and it's a pretty good reason to join.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lovely place. That's very true. Folks, thank you so much for, everything that you put into the program, but also your willingness to show up here and have me ask you questions and all the rest of it. It's really, really useful and helpful to have future students hear from past students and what their experience has been. I know we do have some students or some potential students on the call, but Ariana, I'm going to pass it back to you, and it's up to you whether we want to take any questions. I'd be fine to answer anything, but it's up to you to move us forward.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much, Lee. Hopefully everybody could see my screen pop up there again. Perfect. Yeah, I don't believe we have any questions at this time, but like I said, folks, if you have anything, pop it in the chat, and we're happy to get to those as we move along here. So I'll give us some details on how to apply. If after hearing all that, you're super excited like I am about the program, then I'll give you some details if you're thinking of applying. So at Royal Roads, we have two methods of admission. We have standard admissions. We also have flexible admissions. So I'll just quickly go over some of the criteria for both. Of course, the full details are on our website as well, royalroads.ca. So standard admissions for this program. So students who've completed a minimum of 60 college or university credits in any discipline from a recognized post-secondary institution with a minimum GPA of a B. So that's a 3 or a 4.33. We also have block transfer agreements with different institutions, so different college partners and things like that. You can also check that out on our website as well. And then we also have our flexible admission. So this is one of my favorite parts about Royal Roads is we have that flexible admissions policy. So a minimum of 5 years of full-time work experience with at least 3 years of supervisory, management, or project lead level is required for folks who are coming in under flexible admissions. Demonstrate strengths gained through work, so previous studies, volunteer service, or personal development in 2 or more of the following areas. So business, entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, and you'll see the rest there. I won't read them all out to you, but you'll see them on the screen. And then demonstrate through their statement of intent a clear alignment of personal goals and vision with the goals, value, and processes of the program. So that's what flexible admissions looks like. I'll also just mention that's assessed on a case-by-case basis with our wonderful admissions advisors. So we'll go over some of the documents that you'll submit if you're thinking of applying in just a moment, just to give you a little bit more of an idea of that as well. We also have some language requirements. So at Royal Roads, English is our primary language of communication and instruction. And if your primary language is not English, you can meet this through a few different ways. So you can either hold a recognized credential from an English speaking country, you can submit an English language proficiency test score report, or we have our wonderful Global Learning and Language Center programs, and you can complete one of those as well. You'll see the link for that is just on the screen, or you can find it again, royalroads.ca. And you'll see some details on how to apply. So if you are thinking about it, the first step, folks, is an online application fee. At the moment, it's $136.69. And then we ask for some supporting documents. So if you have official transcripts from prior post-secondary, that's fantastic. Also, we ask that you provide a detailed resume. So going into detail about your work experience, life experience, volunteering, all of those things, just so we can get a nice picture of who you are. A personal statement, you'll see that was mentioned in the flexible admissions part, but the personal statement's a bit like if you were applying for a job. I always say it's a bit like your cover letter. So going into detail about what do you want from the program, what do you hope to contribute from the program, what are some of your goals, and how does it align with you? 2 letters of reference as well. So those can either be academic or professional in nature, and then the English language requirements if that applies as well. And you'll see some key dates. I can hardly believe we're almost in June, but we have an application deadline. Everybody's nodding. Yeah. Application deadline's coming up on June 2nd, 2025 for a September start. There is still time. So if you are thinking about it, as we heard our wonderful students say earlier, just do it. There's no time like the present to join this wonderful program. Or if you are thinking about 2026, a little bit farther down the line, but there's also some dates available, June 8th, 2026, starting again in September. And there's wonderful services that are available to you if you are thinking of applying to Rural Roads. We have our friends at Financial Aid and Awards. So if you're looking for any sort of financial resources, so things like loans, bursaries, scholarships, we even have emergency funding, all sorts of other funding. You can explore that on our website. And then we have a few folks from our wonderful enrollment services, Kelsey and Alana. So nice that they could be here with us today. You can reach out at learn.more@royalroads.ca if you have any questions or things that you want to ask. They can really help you narrow down if you're looking at a few different programs. They can answer questions about your application, or they can also connect you with students and alumni like the wonderful folks that are on the call today. Okay, and at this point, I believe that wraps us up. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Lee, to Emily, Kelsey, Alana, our wonderful guest students, Katia, Isaiah, and Aoi. It's really been such a pleasure to be on this session with you all today. At this point, Lee, I'll just pass it off to you if there's any last things that you want to say before we wrap up here today.
Oh, goodness.
No
Nothing
pressure.
aside from the fact that we are very welcome to answer any questions. We know this is a new and a unique program. You probably have questions. If you're listening to this as a recording, please just reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Of course, we hope we'll see you in the program soon and on our session next time. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day.